Today, we'll be debating democracy versus caliphate systems. Ken, why do you oppose democracy?
I oppose democracy because putting sovereignty in the hands of the people is a surefire way to make tyranny legal. Plato despised democracy because it can easily be exploited by demagogues who manipulate the emotions and base instincts of the masses for their own ends rather than for the good of the community. Richard Nixon's presidency and campaign strategies showcase how democracy can be subverted by demagogues who manipulate racial and cultural resentments for political gain. During his 1968 campaign, Nixon invoked a secret plan to end the Vietnam War, using vague but compelling promises to project competence and credibility, implying superior strategies compared to his predecessors. However, one of his hallmark strategies was the Southern strategy, which sought to attract disenchanted white Southerners upset by civil rights advancements. Recognizing that explicit support for segregation and white supremacy would alienate moderate voters, Nixon avoided openly racist rhetoric, leaving such appeals to figures like George Wallace, an independent presidential candidate in 1968. Instead, Nixon employed coded language like law and order to stoke fears about civil rights protests and urban unrest, the silent majority to appeal to white conservatives uncomfortable with social change, and states' rights to signal opposition to federal civil rights mandates, subtly undermining black political empowerment. While Nixon enforced some federal desegregation laws, he used the courts to slow integration efforts, including school busing. His coalition expanded to include evangelical Christians, drawn by his endorsement of family values that opposed women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and abortion, pushing the Republican Party further right. These strategies deepened racial and cultural divides, alienating black voters who increasingly supported Democrats and cementing systemic barriers to equality. Nixon's manipulative rhetoric and policies reveal how democratic systems can be twisted to reinforce power structures that marginalize vulnerable communities. Richard Nixon's demagoguery, particularly his manipulation of public fears and insecurities during the Vietnam War, not only solidified his domestic political base but also led to catastrophic consequences abroad, particularly in Cambodia. Through his appeals to patriotism, law and order, presenting himself as a strong leader with a secret plan to end the war, and the fears of a communist domino effect in Southeast Asia, Nixon secured public backing for an aggressive escalation of U.S. military efforts despite the vagueness of his promises. This strategy allowed him to justify escalating the conflict, claiming it was necessary to achieve peace with honor and protect the United States from the perceived threat of communist expansion. In 1969, Nixon authorized secret bombing campaigns in Cambodia, aiming to disrupt North Vietnamese supply lines and bases in neutral territory. International conventions, such as the UN's Protocol to prevent, suppress and punish trafficking in persons, however. After Gaddafi's fall in 2011, Libya's legal and institutional structures collapsed, and leadership decisions, rooted in flawed logic or exploitation of public sentiment, can lead to catastrophic consequences for vulnerable populations.